Hi, I want to talk to you today about the loneliest day in the world. When you're dealing with grief, the loneliest day in the world is the day that you got the news about your loved one, the day that you found out that the world is never going to be the same again, the day that you realize that this person that you've loved, that you counted on, that you needed, that you depended on, is no longer going to be in your life. And you would have to figure out, how do you go on from here? How do you live now that they're not with you, that you just can't pick up the phone and call them or send them a text and get a text back, or be able to drop by their house and know that they're going to be there for you? That's the loneliest day in the world, when we realize that the person that we have so come to know and depend on and love and just took for granted, that they would always be there, that we would not have to do life without them, that person is no longer there, and now we're going to have to do life without someone that we love, that we need, that we cherish, that does so much for us. And now we have to figure out, how do we do life without them? And also, why? Why we would want to, right? There are many reasons why we want to go on, right? We want to go on for our families, for our loved ones, for our friends. We want to go on because we still have dreams and hopes and desires that we want to see come to life. But that day, that hour, after the phone call or the visit, when we first learn the news that we no longer have this person in our life, we're devastated. We're in shock. We're in disbelief. We're in denial. And we're hoping that what was said is not actually true. And because we're dealing with all those emotions, and we're trying to just figure things out and move forward in the day while we're processing all this news about not having this person in our life anymore, that is why this becomes the loneliest day. Because you're going to process grief and loss very different from somebody else in your family. Someone else who's connected to them will process their grief and loss. And even though you're sharing the same news, and if it's a partner, you're going to grieve differently. If it's a parent, you're going to grieve differently. If it's someone that all of you have in common and you were close to that person, you're going to grieve very differently from the person next to you. And that is why it feels so lonely. Because you're grieving, your understanding of what just happened is going to be different. And it's going to be hard to find the words to explain to the person next to you, or the other person that knew them, or the other family member, why it hurts you in one way. And as you're listening to how it hurts them, why it's different. Or it may be similar, but you're still having a harder time processing it than your family member, your loved one, your coworker is having when they heard the same news. That's what makes this so lonely. But I want to encourage you that even though the initial hearing of your loved one being passed, of your loved one no longer being there for you, of no longer being part of your life in the physical realm, the initial hearing of that, although it's lonely and difficult and confusing and frustrating, does not mean that it's going to stay this way. Everybody experiences grief differently. For some, that feeling may last for a week, months, right? For others, it won't last as much because they'll change into a different type of emotion. Nevertheless, although it may feel incredibly lonely, it may feel like your world was full one minute and became hollow the next. Like your house was warm and inviting and full of noise and laughter and life, and then it became cold and quiet and now dark. It does not have to stay that way. It does not have to continue to feel that way. So this lonely day does not have to be a lonely week. It doesn't have to turn into a lonely month. That you have the ability to invite people in, and as you get the words, to slowly begin to share what you're feeling. Not necessarily expecting that they're going to understand it word for word or emotion for emotion, but just knowing that although the feeling of loneliness is great, the actuality of loneliness may not be as significant as it feels to you right now. And the way we come out of that feeling of loneliness is we allow ourselves to connect. That when someone says, hey, how can I help you? That you take on that help. That you invite them in, that you share, that you talk through what you're feeling. Even if your mind is telling you they're not going to understand, just the effort of talking through and being consoled and being heard and being cared for helps to lower that feeling of loneliness. So the loneliest day in the world does not have to stay that way. And it does not have to go from a lonely day, month, year. It can be lessened. But you need to be able to feel comfortable to reach out, to allow love in, and to be okay that if that initial feeling is there, that it's not going to necessarily stay. To be okay to not judge yourself for feeling that way. To also be okay with not believing that every day is going to feel as intensely empty, vulnerable, earth-shattering as the first day, the first hour, the first couple of minutes that you've heard the news about losing someone you love. So I just want to encourage you today that the time will come with your help, your participation, that this loneliness that you feel right now will not be as intense, will not be as heavy, and will be filled with love, compassion, friendship, purpose, connection, and healing. Stay encouraged. Till next time. Thank you.